exactly what I want to do, okay? What is that?
Yeah, and take that glitch thingy thing, whatever it is, with you.
That came with me.
Yes, and neither you or that belong to me. Where are we?
I think this is my story.
Back during 2023, I had a problem. Trying to figure out what game to play whenever you don't really have that much time or just don't really feel like playing video games or any number of other issues can obviously be a problem that a lot of people face. It's also a problem that gets so much worse when another player is involved. Oh no, now you have another person that's bored and doesn't really know what to play. And you're trying to play together? How do you fix this? This was me back in 2023. And at that time, the solution to this problem came in the form of a video game called It Takes Two. I know this anecdote is getting a little long, but I promise it has a point. Just real talk for a second. I know I'm supposed to do the professional thing of trying to do a proper review of a video game that I really like or, have certain issues with and, express all those opinions and whatever. But honestly, I'm getting really hung up on the scripting here. Anytime I try to come up with a new point or something or a new positive or weird negative that the game has, I can't help but compare this game, Split Fiction, to It Takes Two. Even as I come up with lines for this part of the video, it's still just like a thing in my head that won't go away. I guess I'm just weirded out that these two games are so similar. I should probably elaborate what I mean by all that, and I will eventually, but we're just gonna have to put a pin on this one for now. I will say, before we start talking about the game proper, if you liked It Takes Two and you're wondering what Split Fiction is about, then expect a remarkably similar experience. Depending on how much you like It Takes Two, this can be seen either as a good thing or a bad thing or a neutral thing, and your specific take is largely going to depend on how you feel about it. I'm in more of the neutral camp myself, just because It Takes Two was sort of the peak of multiplayer puzzle 3D platformer video games for me, and we just have more of that now. So it's not like the market is super saturated or anything, it's just, I don't know, these games are similar, and I think that's just kind of weird. Before I start rambling anymore, we need to talk about the actual game. So, what is Split Fiction?
I understand how one can enjoy sci-fi. It's just so depressing.
Like I'm a fan of fantasy. It is by far the most overrated and pretentious genre.
Great. I'm Zoe, by the way.
Mio and Zoe are two amateur writers just trying to get their stories published. Their story kicks off proper whenever they make it to Raider Publishing. After these two complete strangers make some awkward words and make it to the top of the elevator, they meet the man himself. They both quickly learn that Raider Publishing has a pretty unorthodox way of accepting stories from these creators. Long story short, a big incident happens, and oh no, the simulation, which is meant for only one person, two people end up getting stuck in it, and the game starts proper. Your choice of player character does matter, but I think most people will agree with me whenever I tell you, probably go in without any preconceived intentions here. The left and right sides of the screen here are really all you need to tell which character you'll want to play as. Once you get through picking your character, this is where the gameplay actually starts. Split Fiction is a multiplayer puzzle platformer. While the platforming side of this game is relatively simple, all you get is a jump, a double jump, and a grappling hook, that's practically it. It's the other subgenres that are actually more important here. Puzzle solving is done by way of using these platformer mechanics to make it through levels. Every chapter you get a new gimmick to help facilitate all of the platforming and puzzle solving, and your cooperative partner gets a different but related gimmick. There are some chapters that share the same gimmick if the idea is, I don't know, cool enough. Running, jumping, solving those puzzles, and using each player's gimmick, sort of in tandem with the other player, is the thing that makes these games unique. In the demo's case, Mio gets a gravity katana. This allows her to directly attack melee enemies within a melee range, but also allows her to stick to certain walls by way of changing her personal gravity. It only affects her and allows her to hit certain switches, climb on certain walls, or otherwise access new parts of the level.
Whoa! It's a gravity whip!
What are you doing up there? Ugh. What kind of a revenge story is this?
It's very simple and straightforward.
Whereas Zoe during this chapter gets a gravity whip. allowing her to pull or lift heavy objects, use enemies as projectiles, remove latches off of doors, and all that good stuff. Not only can you use the singular abilities for each character to help facilitate the gameplay, you're often expected to use both of these abilities in tandem between the other character in order to properly solve the game's more advanced puzzles. Maybe you're playing as Zoe and you have to gravity whip a heavy box or something, throw it into a pane of glass or some sort of other obstacle, so that Mio can get on with her section of the level and open the way for you. Crucial thing to note is that these individual character abilities only exist for the one chapter they're found in, being removed after you move on to the next chapter and then being filled in by some other new gimmick. Now, admittedly, on the surface, this sounds like a pretty big issue. If you've never played these games before, then it's gonna seem like, oh, just sort of like a one-trick pony situation. That's like, what do you mean they didn't further develop these abilities for other parts of the level? I have a new one now? But just trust me when I say that all this is in service to make the game feel fresh every time you play a new chapter. It helps to give those levels their own identity. This also means that there's always something new and fresh to look forward to every time you play a new chapter. It also helps whenever you go back to the game and decide to select the other character, having their own gimmicks and their own way of solving the puzzles and going about the levels. Now, if you've taken any interest at all to the gameplay or to me explaining how the game works, you might be wondering, well, where's the demo at? How can I access it? Well, much like It Takes Two, the demo is not exactly the most well-known aspect about these games. They're not advertised anywhere or anything, so if you just want to, jump into the game right now, then go ahead and click off this video, have fun with it, grab a friend, and just, go to town. Before I forget though, I should mention that the game's multiplayer aspect is not optional. You can't select like an AI team member or anything.
Great.
I mean, you could try to play both characters at the same time, but it's not exactly something I would recommend. Okay, anyway, demo, how do you get to it? Both Split Fiction and It Takes Two have something called the Friends Pass. If both you and your cooperator of choice both get the Friends Pass, then you can play the first chapter of each game completely for free. You can play local couch co-op, or you can play online using Steam servers. Tangentially, I guess you could also use Steam Remote Play. I don't see why that wouldn't work, but I didn't test it personally, so take that bit with a grain of salt. From here, you can play the game, see if you like it, save up about $20-25, get the full game, and the really cool thing is that only one person needs to get the full version of the game. The Friends Pass will still allow the other player to play the entire game, they just won't get anything like Steam achievements or, other things that demos wouldn't normally allow you to do. It can be hard convincing one of your friends to fork over a couple dollars for a game they don't know they're going to like, and I really do think this is an underrated aspect of both of these games. The barrier to entry is super low, despite it being a multiplayer game, and I think that's worth celebrating all on its own. Since you're still watching this video, however, I think you might need a little bit more convincing. So let's go ahead and talk about the game some more. The story surrounding this game involves the two characters that you play as going through the stories that they've made over the years. This is facilitated by Raider Publishing's weird simulation machine, sort of accessing their memories and their imagination to essentially steal the stories from these creators. Your job, more or less, is to take down Raider Publishing from the inside out using their simulation, and this weird hiccup that you caused by jumping into it playing as Mio. Assuming you did pick Mio, I don't know, maybe you're the one not to blame here. I also just find it weirdly ironic that out of all the companies to publish this game, it's Electronic Arts of all publishers. Given that we're dealing with a story that has to do with the themes of creative intention and creative control from the creator and not the publisher, I don't know, there are points to be made, and it's a pretty poignant point, I think.
Hello, I am Raider, owner and founder of Raider Publishing.
The setting for these writers' stories also like to inhabit one particular genre per character. Mio likes science fiction and Zoe likes fantasy, and they're pretty opposed to the other character's choice of preferred genre. This in and of itself can make for some pretty good tension between the characters and, other cool writing stuff, and I know narratives aren't exactly the most, important thing to a 3D platformer. Can't say the standards are all that high in this specific genre, but Hazelight Studios, the developers for these games, make some pretty compelling stories. And I would honestly be remiss if I didn't mention it as a positive. And yes, this of course means that the narrative has an influence on the story itself, the levels you go through and such. Each chapter is broken up into each writer's specific genre of choice. And because Raider Publishing is a bunch of scumbags, what they're actually doing is trying to steal all of these writers' ideas. They do this by accessing your memories and sort of laying all the cards on the table, whether or not you wanted them to. And if you're a person in the creative field, sometimes you have some one-off ideas that didn't really go anywhere, or, you know, they were cool in concept but didn't really have that much you can do in practice. And this is another gameplay feature as well, just these tiny levels that explore these unique little settings. They can serve as a nice distraction, they hold little mini-games and other weird little stuff that, I don't know, just seems like it would be fun to implement in a game like this. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I think these games are really cool. Super approachable, fun little adventures to just kind of, I don't know, make experiences with. I think both of these games are games I would want to show my kids one day, just because they have an exceptional level of quality, and some really approachable topics in terms of their storytelling. Not to mention, if, you know, you have siblings, or I have siblings one day, however it goes out, some good couch co-op multiplayer type stuff is always welcome. I grew up with a lot of couch co-op type stuff in my own upcoming, so I don't know, it's weirdly nostalgic to me. Now, that's kind of all I have to say for Split Fiction as a lone product. I like the game on several of its merits, but there is something kind of, again, eating at me that's weird here.
Mr. Raider will fill you in on the details shortly.
Immersive event.
If you came here for simply a review on Split Fiction and you want to see what the game is about, I recommend it. If you want to give it a shot, you have a demo, play the demo, it's good. The only real barrier to entry to see if this is something you want to play is that you need another player. These games are two-player multiplayer games first and foremost. And as it stands, I don't think I would want to play these games single-player in any context just because of how they're created, so there's that. So why am I not ending the video already? Hazelight Studios is the company that developed both It Takes Two and Split Fiction. During the beginning of this video, I alluded to these games being extremely similar. And if you're anything like me, you were maybe expecting something a little bit different to come out of the studio again. I was very deliberate in my wording whenever I was talking about Split Fiction. Instead of just talking about the game by itself, I kept saying these games. And the real closing statement of this review video is only going to make sense if you played both It Takes Two and Split Fiction. And that's because whenever it comes to the actual physical gameplay of these games, they're practically identical. Depending on how much you played It Takes Two, Split Fiction might seem a little bit like a downgrade. Yeah, you have the grapple hook, the double jumping, the single jumps, and a dash and all that, but they removed a lot of the secret tech, like the dash jumps, for example. Probably because they weren't exactly necessary, but even still, I don't know, it just seems like a weird thing to omit in a new game. See, whenever I was getting into Split Fiction, I was sort of expecting something kind of similar, but more like a refined idea of the multiplayer puzzle platformer subgenre that they have here. Something maybe more akin to a proper sequel. Even if it didn't share the same name, which obviously it doesn't here, something that would improve upon the, I don't know, spirit of It Takes Two would have been cooler in my opinion. And the real reason I'm mentioning any of this is because I know this is going to be a problem that people get pretty hung up on. Oh, it's just It Takes Two again. So what? We're just doing the single chapter level gimmicks again. There's just new gimmicks now. We have a new story and a new setting and a new art style, but like, is that really enough? And it's not gonna be for some people. I'm never going to tell you how you're supposed to think about any given topic. That would be scummy and disingenuous, right? It's just, I don't know, I feel this particular, I wouldn't even say situation, just aspect of these two games so interesting to me. Because if it was practically any other genre, I think just about anybody else would get flack for it. That makes it particularly paradoxical whenever you consider that Electronic Arts was the people who published both of these games. Like, what do you mean EA isn't doing something truly controversial for once? That's kinda weird, right? And I'm sort of making this a bigger deal than it is, but like I said before, I'm a lot more in the neutral camp here. I'm not afraid to admit that I would have liked to see something more akin to a softcore sequel to It Takes Two. Maybe some version of Split Fiction where we actually get to keep our level gimmicks. Have them sort of upgraded or built up upon as we play the game. Maybe something a lot more akin to a Legend of Zelda style game or something. I think that would have been fun, and it would have been similar enough to keep the spirit alive still. But I think the real reason this isn't a bigger problem than it probably should be is because there's only two really good multiplayer puzzle platformers that exist in the current video game market. Made by the same people of exceptional levels of quality that nobody really cares. And I mean, that's fine.
Fun. Sounds like a real gem.
I'm sort of sitting in a stance now where it's like, you know, fool me once, fool me twice, fool me a third time, and that's really where I'm at. I think if we saw another third sequel to It Takes Two and it's just the same thing again, that's whenever I'm gonna start raising my eyebrows and we might actually have a problem here. But I mean, hey, as it stands, I'm not opposed to playing a different alternate universe version of It Takes Two, again, for the second time. And personally, I think that'll work for me.
Bring it on!
Am I a little sad that we didn't see more out of these concepts? Well, yeah, of course, I always want to see more. I'm a greedy human being that wants more out of things that I enjoy. But both of these games, whether it be It Takes Two or Split Fiction, honestly are pretty good. More than that, honestly, I think they're pretty amazing games. And with that, I guess that's all I have to say for Split Fiction, and It Takes Two by proxy. Play these games, I think they're both absolutely amazing. They're both right around the price point of about $20, so you really can't go wrong, and again, there's a demo for both of them. And on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Shoutouts as always goes to Stefan over on patreon.com. If you would like to join Patreon like our wonderful friend here, you'll get access to sneak peeks to videos before they come out, early access to the full thing before they pop up on YouTube, and your name read out loud at the end of these videos. If it sounds like your cup of tea, then memberships start at $1 a month. I don't really know how to do the robot-y YouTube type stuff, so I don't know, subscribe if you enjoyed it, like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. I don't know, write a nasty comment if it made you mad at something. Ring the bell, comment, join the Discord, all that stuff. At the end of the day, I just hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next Friday. Have a good day, everybody.